Welcome to Chaos, Courage and Coffee, the podcast for anyone who's felt like on the outside I'm holding it together, but inside I'm struggling.
And we do it with honesty, heart, and just enough coffee to get through the day.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you today?
Hi, Brett. I'm really good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm good, but I'm good, but can't say
Oh,
good.
there's a bat. On the one hand, I'm good. On the other hand, go for it.
I've just noticed lately that life is flying by. Like it's just so fast. Things happen, so quickly. Monday felt like yesterday, and we get to the end of the week, and where did the week go? Where did the years go? As we get older. So I just thought today I'd like to talk about why life feels so fast.
Hmm. Okay, well, we could fix that. Let's just stop the clocks.
And we wish we'd all stop aging.
Yeah. No, I think you're not the only one. I have people who say that, and particularly at our age, where we're a little bit older. I think a lot of people start to think about the time, feel there's less time left, and so on. I have to say though, I am different from a lot of people, and I do not feel this. I do think there's a reason for it. And I think time's interesting. I realized years ago that there's one thing that life is fair about, and it gives us all the same time. In that, okay, yeah, some people die prematurely, but aside from that, we all have 24 hours in a day. Okay, we all have 7 days a week. It's the only thing that's fair. We don't all get the same money, we don't all get the same childhood, we don't all get the same experiences, opportunities, whatever. The one thing that's the same is we all get the same amount of time. So life is very fair on that front. However, there's a lot of people like you who think, well, it's going really fast for me. It's like whizzing by. But then there's people like me who don't feel that. So what is this interesting thing, this illusion of time?
Well, I think we've touched on it a little bit, and I think intention comes into it. Like, where do we put our focus? So if, like, I know you do put a priority on taking time out and enjoying moments and building the enjoyable things into your life, then I think that gives us not just opportunity, but to some degree, it forces us to slow down and live life. So I would say that it's about how we use the time is probably one of the most important factors.
Because look at it like this way. Have you ever been like, I don't know, take it that you've gone to a social thing or something, and it started, I don't know, let's say it started at 7:30, and before you know it, it's 10 o'clock. Whoa, that went quickly. Then take another time, and I'll give you one of mine. I hate queuing, right? I'm really bad at queuing. I'm bad at queuing in person, and I'm bad at queuing like in traffic. So if there's traffic and I know there's going to be a queue, even though it will take me the same amount of time, I'll drive the long way where I get to keep moving rather than. Anyway, I digress. When you're standing in a queue, for me, if I was in a queue for 2.5 hours, it would seem like a year. Right? Same 2.5 hours that at the barbecue where I'm drinking and chatting to friends, it just like, oh my gosh, have you seen the time? It's 10:30 already. I've got work tomorrow. I need to go to bed. Right? 2.5 hours. So that tells me, although we have the same amount of time, there's a concept around how long it feels. So if you start with that as your starting point, that is fascinating.
Yeah, I think you're right. We always say time flies. The saying is time flies when you're having fun.
Right.
So, and when we're bored, time drags. when you're standing in a queue, it takes forever to move to the front of the line. I absolutely get it. And believe me, I'm with you. If the traffic is queued up, I'll go the long way, even if it takes me a little bit longer, because it feels like progress. And maybe that's something we can talk about another day as well.
Yeah,
But
I'm pleased to know I'm not the only one on that. And since I've been bold enough to tell people, because I used to think that's ridiculous, same amount of time, but since I've been bold enough to tell people, I have discovered I'm not the only one. So that's good to know. So if we can play with time, that changes it. So then the question's different. So you said time's really fast, okay? Life's flashing forward, and a lot of people are finding this. So to my mind, that means you've got control. You can change the concept of time. So the question becomes, how do we change it, rather than why is it going so fast?
well, I think so. To answer your question, I think one of the ways we change that is to be more intentional with what we do with our time. So I think one of the problems is we don't switch off, or we pick up the phone and for 2 minutes we start scrolling TikTok or Facebook or whatever, and all of a sudden 45 minutes, an hour is gone. So we're not using that time intentionally to do this thing. We get distracted and we do a bunch of other things. So if we do something with more intention, something that we get more pleasure out of. We've talked before about scheduling in the fun activities instead of just picking up our phone because we're bored. Actually, get out and do something that we want to do, or schedule something. Do arts and crafts, your scrapbooking, or I don't know what people do for fun, but I know my wife used to do scrapbooking and things like that, and she enjoys being a bit hands on. So do those sorts of things. Go to a football game or whatever, even if it's the local club. I actually watched a really great game, really enjoyable game of under 10s rugby league the other week. It was a lot of fun. Um, and that sounds like who really cares? But the kids were having fun and it was just a good game. So, it's those things where you're enjoying yourself, I think. Can yes, time flies, but it's that intentional enjoyment, that intentionality, if you like, of what we dedicate our time to. I think that could help.
So that could be one thing. And I think if you want to go on your phone and scroll and make it intentional, then say, right, I'm going to do this for 45 minutes and even put a timer on, or half an hour or whatever, allocate it so that you don't think, oh, I only went on to do this and I've now just wasted 45 minutes. Now, here's another thing, and this is one that I've discovered. If you get up in the morning and you go to work and you come home, you have your dinner, you watch TV, you go to bed, and you do that 5, 6 days a week. Okay. You've only done one thing in your head. Okay. You've only gone to work. Whereas if you get up in the morning, let's say you are still working, so you go to work, but after work, you meet friends for a drink, and then you go to a movie, and then you, I don't know, come home and do something else. And then at the weekend, you do lots of things. You feel like you've done a lot more in that time. It makes time expand. You go, oh my gosh, this week. So on Monday I did this, and on Tuesday I did this, and on Wednesday I did this. And it's like, wow, I've done like 62 things this week. What a long week. And that's how I play it. So when people say, like, oh my gosh, what happened to the week? I literally go, well, hold on, but I've done this, and this. And I can list all the things. Now, I'm not saying you've now got to be super busy. You can still do Brett's ones of being intentional. So you can intentionally sit and have a chill time, intentionally go and sit in the sun, intentionally go and do some exercise. So it's being, or maybe just block it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think we're talking the same thing. Our context is a little bit different. So if you're doing something in the evening, that's an intentional activity. But sitting in front of the TV, on the lounge, scrolling on the phone, that's not intentional. So dedicating that time to catching up with friends, or going to a movie, or going to the gym or yoga class, or something along those lines.
And we don't
That's
want to make people busier. That's the only thing. So I'm a little bit, and I know I did it as well. And we're now talking about, oh, do all these activities. And then it's kind of like, hold on, we're not trying to make you busier.
No, that's not the intent. But it helps when we, and this might be part of the problem too. Are we trying to cram too much in to our lives? Are we not taking the time to slow down? And there's a balance here that I think we need to address as well. There's, I think, a balance between doing different things, new things perhaps, but certainly different things, changing. Each day is something a little bit different. It doesn't have to be greatly different, doesn't have to take a huge amount of time, but it's just not the same thing day in, day out. As you said, we get up, go to work, come home, sit on the couch, or have dinner, sit on the couch, watch TV, and then go to bed. It's the same thing day in, day out, and it all blurs into one. And as you say, that's just one. There's 1 week, but there's no differentiation. But if we can differentiate our days somehow, and mix in some intentional downtime, quiet time, which we've talked about before, as well as some different activities that we can get out and enjoy ourselves and enjoy life, then I think we're starting to strike a balance between life feeling too rushed and disappearing on us, and just doing nothing, being bored, and life really being slow.
There's a few key words you said there. One of them I can remember, the other one I think passed me by, but differentiation is really, really important. And one of the ways I do this, I don't necessarily agree with the intentional, because I wouldn't say I'm intentional, but what I do is I do what I call job hopping. Um, and I'll do a bit of one task, and then I'll change and I'll do a bit of something else. And when I say task, I don't mean task, but I mean I'll go and read a book. That might be half an hour, and then I'll go and chat to a friend. So I'm doing different things, and like you said, it's differentiating those things. They're all separate things. That's how I get multiple things in the day.
Yeah, it's not doing the same thing all day, every day, which,
Groundhog Day.
yeah, but I think that's where a lot of people perhaps find themselves in life. They're stuck in careers and family, and it just all blends into one.
Mm.
Uh, so, I want to go back to being busy just for a minute. We are busy, and a lot of us lead busy lives. There's, a saying, I think something like life is a lemon and is meant to be squeezed, but are we trying to squeeze too hard and get too much out of it? Uh, because if we don't slow down, and we've talked about this before, if we don't slow down, then life, is going to pass us by. We're going to be exhausted. Our cup is going to run dry, so to speak. So we need to take that time to slow down as well.
Well, I don't know if I've mentioned it before. If I have, great. I'm still going to mention it again. We are too busy in life. We just keep thinking we can pile more and more upon ourselves, and we've got ridiculous with it, to be honest. Utterly ridiculous with how much we're expecting ourselves to do. And still we expect more. And let me tell you, it's a never end. It won't end. It's like when I was in sales. This was one of my first jobs. So disappointing. And they'd give you a target, and you would hit the target, and you'd be so pleased you worked really hard and you hit the target. So what did they do? Next month, they're like, right, now we've put your target up. So then you work really hard. And I don't know how long it took me to realize there's no point in me hitting my target, because they're just going to give me another target. Well, this is the same with your busyness in life. Okay. You keep pushing yourself to be able to do more. And as soon as you think you've got the handle on adding on that extra, guess what? You now expect yourself to do more. And this is why we're burnt out and stressed and overwhelmed. We're being ridiculous. You are not able as a human to do this much. If you insist on doing it, something's going to give. Generally, we get ill. Okay. We are being ridiculous. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm blaming society. the culture. We are being silly. You are trying to do too much and you keep adding more and more and more and more. And now, highlighted by today's conversation, you're not even appreciating your time because it's all just become a big blur. And now you think life's rushing you by. So, big question. What are you achieving by doing more and more and more? And life is just rushing by far too fast.
I think the answer to that question is probably not much.
Well, it depends what you want to achieve, huh? Are you achieving what you want to achieve? What do you want to achieve?
If you want to stay busy, then maybe.
Yeah.
But if
If
you
you want to
want,
get burnt out, go for it.
yeah, absolutely, we're on our way there. Um, I think something you said in that you talked about life becoming a blur, and I just wanted to pick up on that. So it's a bit of a rhetorical question. Why does it become a blur, or how does it become a blur? And I think part of the reason that occurs, life becomes a blur because we're not putting enough focus on one thing. Our attention is fragmented. We've got all of these different things, and a lot of people in their workplaces, they've got their emails open, they're trying to complete this task, they've got a phone on their desk, maybe they're scrolling on the side on whatever app they might have, TikTok, Facebook, whatever. And we're trying to get this task done, but an email pops up. So we go and address the email and then we go back to the task, and then the phone rings, and we're not isolating ourselves and being able to focus clearly on one thing at a time. And I think that's detrimental to our long-term ability to focus. I think your example is a little bit different because you're intentional in, you do this thing for a period of time, you finish that, then you move to the next thing for a period of time. That works. All right. That is a time management strategy. But I think a lot of people in their workplaces, we don't have that. And even at home, we start one thing and then we get distracted by this thing. Or, like I said before, we pick up the phone to scroll for 2 minutes, and all of a sudden 45 minutes is gone, because even though our focus is on that thing, it's distracting us from everything else that we might need to do. And it just becomes a blur.
It's funny when you said life becomes a blur immediately, because we were talking about life being so fast. It made me think of, when a train is going past and it's going so fast, it's a blur. So that was the picture that came up for me. That's why life's a blur, because it's going so fast in front of us and we're not actually, we need to slow it down to actually pick individual bits from it, and we can't. It's just a big, big blur.
Yeah, I think you're right. We're loading ourselves up way too much, and we're not paying attention to where the time goes. What are we doing with our time? Is it just scrolling on phones? Is it sitting in front of the TV? Is it all caught up in work? I think,
Well, I think the big thing I want people to take away from this conversation is, if you're in the camp of life feels too fast, there is something you can do about it. And that is your big takeaway. Don't think it's life that's moving fast. No, it's how you're doing it. And I hope we've shown you that you can manipulate time, and it is just how you feel about it rather than the time itself. Time's always been the same. Like when you're a child, a year is an eternity. When you're an adult, apparently it goes past in the blink of an eye. So it's what you do with it, and it's how you manage it. So have hope, listen to our tips. You can change this for yourselves.
I like that you said, when you're a child, a year is an eternity. I like speaking to really little children, and they are 3 3/4 or 2.5, or because they're big milestones. A year is such a long time to the next birthday. And yet, once we get older, we don't say we're 42.5 anymore. Sometimes when we get to that point, we're in our 50s, or
Yeah, we bracket it more. When a baby's born, it's how many weeks they are, and then how many months. Now, yeah, we're in our 40s, our 50s, our 60s. Isn't that interesting? That that's how our concept of time has changed.
yeah, it does
Time
change.
hasn't changed. Our concept of time has changed. That's the point.
Yeah, we don't think about it in the same way, and we don't manage it in the same way. If you think about the way children embrace their days and their years, they've got, and they really do, maybe intentionally, not intentionally, but the way they live their life, it's about this thing, and they're all in on that thing for that period of time. They're playing with Legos, or they're playing on the playground, or whatever it might be, but they're all in on that thing for that period of time. And I think as adults, we don't really do that to the same degree. And that might be why, or part of the reason why, life becomes a bit more of a blur, because we're doing this thing and that thing, and maybe this thing as well, and they're all interlinked or meshed together, and the lines are blurred.
So your big takeaway in summary from this is you can manipulate time. You need to start investigating it yourself. You need to see if you're intentional. You need to see what you're doing with your day. Are you doing it? Are you doing too many things? And you just, it's just become one big busy day that's just passed you by and that's the day gone. So start looking at what you're doing, how intentional it is, and how many different kind of sections you've got in your day.
Yeah, I would absolutely recommend breaking things up, chunking. Do a chunk of this, and or blocking, block time out, block of time for this and a block of time for that. You might find that, or I think you will find that you can see where your time is going better. Turn your phone off or turn the notifications off. Close your emails down. Actually turn your email messaging system off while you're trying to focus on a particular task. The emails will wait. If somebody really wants to get a hold of you, they will call you on the phone, or they will walk in and tap you on the shoulder. All right, so we can turn the emails off. It's, unfortunately, for most people anyway, some people can't, I acknowledge that. Um, but for most people, you can turn the emails off and keep going. Uh, yeah, I
So the
just,
point is, we can do this, we can affect this. We don't have to just sit there saying, life goes so fast. If you're hearing yourself say that, start changing it now if you don't want it to go fast.
yeah, look at where your time, actually, maybe a little exercise. Sit down at the end of the week or on a weekend and work out what you've done each day through the week, and you'll find out where your time's going and what you're actually doing. And then you can start being a little bit more, we talked about it before, intentional about what you're doing with your time.
I think people think, sorry, just to add on to that, that people think it's got to be big chunks of time. And so if they analyze their time, they go, well, I didn't have, there's no time I could have done, used to do an extra thing. But it's like, honestly, when I'm talking to parents, I say, give your child wants quality time. We say even 2 minutes of you not distracted and focusing on your child counts. So don't think it's got to be big chunks of time. Don't think, well, by the time I got home from work and I've done the kids and I've done dinner, there is no time. Even small chunks of time count.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, is there anything else?
No, I think we've labored the point quite well. And if people can start looking at it, they will see what we're talking about and they can make some changes.
Okay. Well, thank you
Yep.
for your time.
Thank you, Rhett. Thanks for being with us today on Chaos, Courage and Coffee. Remember, you're not alone and you don't have to figure it all out at once. What part of today's conversation stood out for you?
This podcast is about showing up in the mess, not waiting until it's all sorted out. If today helped, share it with someone else who might need it too.
And if you're navigating your own version of chaos, we'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment, message us, or join the conversation.
We'll be back soon with more honest talk, less pressure, and just enough courage to get through whatever's next.
See you next time on Chaos, Courage and Coffee.